Good afternoon. My name is Yulio, and this is the Stories from Yulio channel. I invite you to listen to a new author's story. Hello. At the interview, I greeted them, slightly opening the door. Come in, came the displeased voice of Vanessa, the head of HR. Dressed up like FIFA, she arrogantly glanced over the person who entered, then nodded toward a vacant chair. Sitting down, I immediately felt uncomfortable. I wanted to leave, but by sheer willpower, I overcame the feeling. Remember the purpose of your visit. So why should we hire you? To be honest, I don't know. This is my first interview. What do people usually say in such cases? Emma shrugged awkwardly. She tried to lighten the tense atmosphere with a joke, but it only provoked another disdainful look from her interviewer. Vanessa was clearly unhappy with her arrival and didn't respond to the smile. Continue. The HR manager's gaze drilled into her. She felt completely exposed and uncomfortable, as if she were undergoing a real interrogation. Why do we need you? Vanessa pressed again. No work experience, zero value as a specialist, she added mockingly. Do you think trading companies hire people like you? What for? Why are you so quiet? Emma said. Her cheeks immediately burned. The unfair words struck a nerve. She was not used to outright insults, but had to keep herself together to get the job. I study at university part-time, graduated school with a gold medal, she said. So don't talk to me like I'm some kind of vagrant. Honestly, she was very scared, barely holding back trembling. Tears welled up in her eyes. She wanted to just get up and run out, but the cold voice interrupted. What? What audacity? In my office, I speak as I please, understand? And don't point at me, please. Get out, you rude girl. You'll never get a job in our company. Emma flinched at the angry shout. A couple of tears slipped down her cheek, revealing her fear. She immediately felt sick inside, as if she were back among school bullies who mercilessly tormented the weak, defenseless girl. What's all the noise? Suddenly a male voice was heard. She instinctively turned around and saw a young man in an expensive suit, attractive, confident, and stylish. He looked at her and, smiling reassuringly, approached the table where several colorful folders lay. Hello, Jake, Vanessa grumbled. I was conducting the interview, but the candidate isn't suitable, so she's about to leave us. Why isn't she suitable? He asked, thoughtfully flipping through the documents. For a company with such a long history, Vanessa began, but he interrupted. Cut the pomp, Assistant Dort. I only recently bought this business, winning it at auction for next to nothing because just a month ago you were absolute bankrupts. No buts. Why did you jump on the girl from the start? Let her work if she wants. We need motivated employees, especially cleaners, Jake said, looking carefully at Emma. She thought she saw a slight irony in his eyes. Her heart stopped anxiously. It felt like her whole fate was hanging by a thread. If she couldn't get this job, it would be the end. Our salary isn't very high. The budget won't allow generosity. Dort shook her head. But if you work well, I'll top it up from my own pocket as a performance bonus. Officially. So you're hiring me? Emma asked in a trembling voice. Of course. Vanessa will prepare all the documents, and you can start even tomorrow. We really are short-staffed. The young man picked up the necessary folder, gave the HR manager a stern look, and then left the office. Your passport. Let me make a copy. Bring it tomorrow. Everything else is on the list, and you'll sign the employment contract, Vanessa said, grinding her teeth. You got the job. Well done, but you've made an enemy already. Just a warning, sneered one of the managers, Evan. Emma just hunched her shoulders, trying to quickly get to the elevator. 3 weeks had passed since she started work, what felt like real hell. She could not have imagined how this seemingly attractive vacancy would turn out. Where are you going? It's not clean here yet, Evan shouted again. That's not true. I already cleaned there, Emma called back over her shoulder. Then what's this? Evan demonstratively raised his hand holding a paper coffee cup and spilled the remaining sweet liquid onto the floor. A nasty smile lit up his face. The other colleagues immediately laughed cruelly, looking at the confused cleaner. Emma sighed heavily. From day one, the team disliked her, constantly teasing and mocking her. Such nastiness happened all the time, making her feel trapped in a cage full of poisonous spiders eager to sting as painfully as possible. Can I put my things here? She asked, nodding at the communal coat rack. Go ahead. Evan generously waved his hand, still enjoying her confusion. She hung her bag on a hook, placed it right at the bottom of the coats, and went to her small closet for the mop. 5 minutes later, the cleaning was done. Nothing complicated, but the spoiled mood couldn't be fixed. That's it, we're done, said Evan, who had found something to do in the meantime. She put on her coat, slung her bag over her shoulder, but decided not to linger in the office, just in case some prankster came up with another joke. Emma didn't even call the elevator, running quickly down the fire escape stairs. She often used them during work to avoid meeting other company employees. A couple of floors down, and the building exit appeared before her eyes. Hey, wait! A security guard's voice suddenly called. What's wrong? Emma almost groaned. My workday is over. Show me your bag, said the security guard, a burly man with a square jaw and a black uniform. She didn't want to argue. Here you go. She timidly handed over her bag. We received an anonymous tip today that someone from the staff will try to take compromising documents out of the building. Care to explain what this is? The guard shook a folder in the air. But I really don't know, it's not mine, Emma stammered. All right, then you'll have to explain it to Jake. Come with me, explain everything. Hurry up. This should be grounds for dismissal, the young businessman thoughtfully said, examining the confiscated printouts. Sorry, I don't understand how they ended up with me. Emma answered through tears. I don't even know what this is, she added. These are confidential company documents, financial reports, future plans, deals, and other info that competitors could easily use against us. Jake, he said. I know it's not you, but someone planted it in her bag. We need to find out who and why as soon as possible. They'll fire me now, she whispered. Suddenly she felt how tired she was and how much pain she had now. This pain and fear felt very real. She wanted to curl up, be alone, all alone in this huge world without treacherous colleagues and cunning intrigues. Only beside Jake in the whole office did she somehow feel calm and good. And now, involuntarily, she had become an accomplice of a malicious intent. She had to hide her condition somehow, but fear of the future seized her body and made fresh tears run down her cheeks again and again. No, we will conduct an internal investigation, Jake said. And for now, you'll have to be my eyes and ears. Why do you trust me? Emma whispered, surprised. Maybe I'm just a good person and can feel others like me. Jake winked and approached. The gesture might seem too familiar, but somehow it calmed her, making her believe everything would really be all right. I don't believe a cleaner took those documents. Jake shook his head. Then who? Murmured Margaret, the head of security, an elderly, experienced detective who decided to retire but couldn't completely leave his favorite job. He was hired as a security specialist. It seemed he knew everything, maybe even more than the owners themselves. At least he had access to the most confidential secrets and was unofficially present at meetings, monitoring partners' behavior. Jake, I'm telling you for sure, Emma didn't enter my office that day. Who else has keys? Jake asked. Vanessa. Old scores. Vanessa was so sure she would become your mentor, but in the end she still. Fading away in the HR department. Let's check the cameras. The head of security opened his laptop, typed a few keys, and brought up the necessary footage on the screen. And how many cameras there are, I don't even know, the young businessman joked. Don't worry, it's all for the greater good. Look, here she is sneaking on the recording. Indeed, Vanessa appeared on one of the cameras in one of her bright outfits. She looked around, then opened the office door and slipped inside. A couple of minutes later, the head of HR was running back out, clutching the familiar cardboard folder to her chest. Well then, what other proof do you need? Brandon smiled. She just got caught so stupidly. She simply didn't know about the video recording. Otherwise, she wouldn't have acted so boldly. All right, gather everyone. It's time for a public dressing down. By what right are you accusing me? Vanessa shouted. Everyone gathered in the main hall watched with interest as the new owner was stroking FIFA behind her back, while the rest of the HR staff nervously shuffled, unsure whose side to take. Because you didn't just steal important documents but also try to frame a good colleague, Jake said sternly. The employees immediately glared angrily at Vanessa as if the entire scandal was solely her fault. "I've worked here for 10 years. Vanessa howled. "Great, then it won't be hard for you to find a new job. Go to hell, all of you." Vanessa sharply turned, clicking her heels angrily, and left. Several of her colleagues, including Megan, followed her, while the others scattered around the office, trying not to attract attention. Their behavior clearly showed that the new owner was not popular among them. "Thank you for standing up for me," Emma said once everyone had dispersed. "I'm starting to get used to it," she sighed sadly. "So what now?" "Nothing. Just work like before." Emma really wasn't happy. Julie had no intention of staging a coup or getting involved in power struggles. She just wanted to work quietly and save enough money. And what did she get instead? Constant intrigues, backroom games, hostile looks. Tears appeared in her eyes. "Crying again." Jake smiled, handing her a handkerchief. "Office wars aren't for me at all," she sniffled, wiping her face with the soft cloth. "You have nothing to fear. You're responsible and honest. I stick by people like you. So, I won't let anyone insult you. May I ask?" Emma knocked on the door. "Is it time to clean up?" "Yes, come in." Jake started wiping the floor, carefully moving chairs aside. "How are things?" the young businessman asked, distracted from his papers. "Everything's fine, I guess. It's been 2 weeks since Vanessa quit, and no one spat on my back yet. But you see, things are getting better," Jake smiled. "I have a problem," Jake admitted, struggling with calculations. Emma put down the mop and began dusting the table. Her eyes accidentally fell on the papers spread out with numbers and formulas. Suddenly, she made a slight movement, as if about to grab them, then tensed like a rabbit before a leap. "There's a mistake here," she suddenly said, noticing an error in the formula. "Sorry, I shouldn't have." She felt awkward and grabbed the rag again, trying to move away from the table. But Jake got up from his chair and blocked her way. "Don't be shy. Show me what you noticed," he asked, taking the cleaning supplies from her. "It's just a typo, probably a 1 instead of a 0, and the number was transferred incorrectly," she explained, pointing with her finger. The young businessman calculated something in his head, underlined the found flaw with a pen, and smirked with satisfaction. "Who are you, a beautiful fairy?" Jake said with a smile, looking at her. "Just a regular girl from a poor family," Emma replied. "Tell me about yourself," Jake suddenly asked. "I should know my employees." "There's not much to tell. I never knew my dad. I grew up with my mom. She works as a saleswoman and is seriously ill now," the girl began sadly. "What happened to her legs?" he asked. "A typical occupational disease for saleswomen, severe varicose veins. She can hardly walk. She needs surgery, but there's no money for it. That's why I wanted so much to get hired here and work my hardest." "I can guess," Jake said. "I really want to help her. We just have to. Because only the two of us understand each other. I came to success only through hard work. I worked until I was drenched in sweat, gathered initial capital, then bought this company for pennies and am raising it now. But it's too early to talk about victory. Problems and debts are sky high," Jake shared. Emma stole a glance at him, feeling a strange sense of closeness, as if she had known this man her whole life. Jake's eyes looked at her with hope and warmth, combining a firm character, responsibility for decisions, and compassion. "When I hired you, I didn't even think that such a friendship would develop between us," the young businessman said. "I thought just a young, pretty girl I liked, so I offered her the job. You can't imagine how lucky I am to work with someone I can trust." "But you said I'm a good person," she smiled. Lately, they had started communicating more warmly, mutual sympathy growing every day, and sometimes she wondered if something serious could happen between them. But she didn't dare ask. Then it's definitely the end of work, she thought. A sudden phone call interrupted this idyll. "Hello. Hi, dear," Jake said, taking the call and getting a bit embarrassed that he might overhear a private conversation. Emma quickly gathered her things and quietly closed the office door. "Is Jake busy?" asked Secretary Alice, noticing her. "Yes. Someone brought him documents to sign, and he's on the phone." "Lover." The gossip enthusiast perked up. "Probably cooing and cooing. Can't stop talking," she said with a hint of envy in her voice. The Secretary Alice sighed. "Do you know if it's serious between them?" "Josh," Emma asked. Well, girl, here's the story. The gossip lowered her voice and babbled. Zoya is his fiancée, from a rich family. They're heading toward a wedding, so Jake doesn't allow himself any flings. Apparently, he loves her madly and would do anything for her, her friend said, because he was the only man who treated her with such tenderness. She even imagined how happy Jake must be now and smiled sadly. Well, all the beautiful rich ones are already taken. We'll never have that. Alice interpreted her sigh in her own way. Is it really about money? Are you not in love? The secretary squinted. No, why would you think that? Emma felt her cheeks flush and quickly ran to her small room, sharply regretting having revealed so much to the office's main chatterbox. Her soul was filled with conflicting emotions, and all she wanted was silence and peace to think everything over and decide for herself. Hello. Emma smiled as she saw Jake coming out of the elevator. I was just coming to your office to tidy up. Hi, come in. The young man replied dryly. A month had passed since their last conversation. During all that time, she had been carefully avoiding close contact to prevent her feelings from turning into something serious. Unfortunately, this trick wasn't working very well, and now she had to fight the urge to hug Jake instead of cleaning. Once she almost gave in to temptation but caught herself immediately. Is something wrong? Emma asked cautiously. There's a serious problem, Jake said bitterly. Actually, everyone in the office has noticed. For a week now, the boss has been gloomier than a thundercloud. Before, he always spoke positively and with enthusiasm on any issue. Can I help in any way? She asked gently. But there are things no one can help with. He looked down, but then decided she shouldn't be offended by his words. Maybe Jake just didn't want to open up to his cleaner. After all, who was she to pry into his soul? I caught my fiancé with my best friend. Jake broke the silence. Imagine, the wedding was supposed to be in 6 months. He pulled a pack of cigarettes from his pocket, lit one, but immediately threw the burning stub aside. His fingers trembled, revealing the heavy burden of what had happened. Emma wanted to take his hand and calm him. She herself felt uneasy. She saw the tension in his soul. Understanding that, she approached the table, slid a drawer shut, brushed away an invisible speck of dust from the tabletop, and sat down next to him. Zoya doesn't even know what happiness she missed. You'll find a good, faithful one and be happy, she said confidently, trying to encourage her friend. Oh, I hope so, he sighed. So much has happened, and now this breakup comes at the worst possible time. Things never happen at the right time, you know. Important negotiations are coming up. Wealthy investors from the capital are coming. We've been discussing their investment for weeks, and now they've decided to come personally to check how they can help. You always hold negotiations. You just need to prepare well, right? It's not just about my preparation, Jake slumped. The meeting will be at a restaurant, informal. It's necessary to come with family, or at least significant others. And I'm completely alone in every sense. Well, investors are people too. They should understand that things happen in life. Emma smiled encouragingly. I don't know. I think it'll hurt my reputation, like I couldn't keep my fiancé. How can I manage our finances then? The boss said doubtfully. When I arranged the meeting, I didn't know Zoya would cheat. I promised the investors I'd introduce everyone. But what now? Look like a fool and nobody. A heavy silence fell in the office. There wasn't a single clear idea that could ease the atmosphere. The investors could really think the young man had lied to them, especially due to his fiancée's betrayal. Everything was very sad. Fortunately, it seemed he had a saving idea. After some thought, he grabbed at a last straw. How about you come with me? There will be a party, lots of people, good food. Just play the role of the fiancé, smile nicely, and then we leave. How do you imagine that? The simple girl asked, confused, like a princess. Don't worry, no one will find out. These are guests from the capital, right? They'll never see you again in their life. But how will I look? Is the outfit appropriate? No, your manners aren't right. I don't even have lipstick, she said amazed. Don't think about it, Jake brightened. Just agree. There's no one else who can help me. A pure adventure. Why did I even go along with you? Emma muttered, going over the dress she bought. She felt awkward about how much money Jake had spent on the outfit and accessories. And then she suddenly thought they'd have to pretend to be a loving couple all evening. The thought made her blush again. Emma bit her lip and turned away. Her ears felt warm. Surprisingly, almost everything suits you, Jake said with a hint of admiration in his voice. What do you mean surprisingly? Did you expect the dress to look like a saddle on a cow? She joked cheerfully. If I come to work only in jeans and spend the day in a robe, it doesn't mean that's how I am in life. No, I just couldn't decide which one was better, so I took all of them. She looked again at the 3 pairs of shoes, several handbags, and little boxes with accessories. It was hard to choose. She had never seen such beauty before and especially never tried it on. Despite her bravado, she rarely allowed herself new things, saving every penny for her mother's operation. Hurry up, we have to leave very soon. The guy spoiled the solemn moment. An hour later, they stood at the entrance of a luxurious restaurant. The attentive hostess showed where to leave outerwear and where to sit. Well, you worry for nothing, Jake whispered, pulling out a chair. I still think they'll notice the trick, Emma replied softly. But the important guests were too busy with their own matters to pay any attention. Men in expensive suits exchanged handshakes, gave the expected compliments to the newcomer, and immediately went back to discussing financial issues. All the women sat looking bored. Jake shrugged, hardly taking part in the conversation. You're like flowers, beautiful but silent. Hey, that's actually offensive. All right, just a joke. We're still waiting for another important guest. Once Robert arrives, no one will be bored anymore. The wealthy company lingered for a while longer. Jake joined their chatter, while Julie ordered a light salad. How do you like our city? She asked, trying to catch the attention of one of the girls. It's okay, the girl answered indifferently, casting only a haughty glance at her. The attempt to make friends clearly failed. It seemed these divas were used to being nothing more than decorations, barely paying attention to those around them. Finally, my friends. It was so hard to get to you, came a loud voice from the restaurant entrance. A respectable older man in a light blue suit with a white shirt and a modest tie approached the table. He walked briskly, holding an elegant crocodile leather briefcase. Fashionable gold-rimmed glasses gave his face an aristocratic look. Scanning the people present, he headed to the table where the rich guests sat. Robert looked about 50 years old. He placed his briefcase on an empty chair and turned to the group with a bright smile. And this must be Jake's charming fiancée, the businessman said. Hello, my name is, Julie began but immediately stopped when she saw Robert turn pale. What's wrong with you? The important delegate swayed from excitement and almost fainted but grabbed the back of a chair and stayed on his feet. He composed himself quickly and pretended everything was fine. Emma noticed Robert's strange smile. It was like a grimace of pain. The man looked so confused, as if caught in the most ridiculous situation. You're my daughter, aren't you? How is this possible? Robert said, rubbing his chest with his left hand. Sorry, Robert. You said Melissa died in a car accident 6 months ago, Josh interrupted. Yes, that's true. The businessman sighed without taking his eyes off Emma. But this girl is the exact copy of my daughter. She felt herself blushing again. He has no support. Robert, it's impossible for her to be your daughter. She's lived her whole life here with her mother. We met, I think, by chance, Jake said, not mentioning that she worked as a cleaner in his company. It's probably just a coincidence. They don't look that much alike. The men shook their heads. To be honest, it's like seeing a ghost, Jake said. Shall we move on to the main discussion? One of the businessmen suggested. The gathered group perked up. Someone pulled out papers. Electronic tablets with calculations appeared on the table. Robert joined the bustle, unfastened his briefcase clasp, but his eyes kept looking at Emma. He literally didn't leave her side for the rest of the evening, listening to the colleagues' conversations. Sorry, I feel bad interrupting important people, Julie finally said. Can I go home so I don't get in the way? She asked cautiously. The colleagues looked at her disapprovingly, but said nothing aloud. The main issues were resolved, and now they just needed a concrete answer from the main guest. I'm still sure about our relation. Such coincidences just don't happen, Robert kept insisting. Melissa isn't just similar. She looks like the same person, he pondered. Even if that's true, how will we find out the truth? Very simple, Robert shrugged. It's just very expensive. Don't worry, I'll pay for everything. And actually, I'm so tactless, I came without a gift. He rummaged in his wallet and pulled out a bank card. Here, Buy yourself something for now. Why are you so sure we're related? Emma asked. Sorry, I'm probably rushing things, Robert realized. It just seems like a miracle to meet like this by chance. Look, you're like 2 drops of water. He opened his wallet again and showed photos stored in a special compartment. In them, Emma indeed looked exactly like Melissa, with the same dark hair, brown eyes, and delicate facial features. You also have a mole under your right knee. Strawberry allergy, Robert continued, leaning toward her as if not noticing the colleagues. And a dimple on your chin, exactly like hers. I think you're twins. How is that possible? Emma wondered. Robert was right about all those things, and combined with the photo, his words seemed very convincing. All her life, she wondered why her mother never spoke about her father. And now the family might be reunited. Even if it happened in such a strange way, they would find everything out. The main thing is to believe me, daughter, Robert smiled warmly. All right, I believe you, Emma returned the smile. So, shall we open it? Robert asked, clutching an envelope with the test results. He had purposely stayed in town for a week to conduct the necessary examination. Now the 3 of them sat in Jake's office, who kept up the illusion that they were about to get married. Let's do it, Emma nodded, her heart pounding with anticipation. Robert carefully opened the envelope and took out a folded sheet with the test results. So, the contents are incorrect, he started. The blood group doesn't match either. Robert nervously cleared his throat, scanning the lines before staring at the girl. The result is negative. What? How can this be? Really? Emma and Jake cried out in shock. In just 1 week, they had gotten used to the idea of her kinship with Robert. Probably a mistake. It happens, Robert explained hastily, loosening his tie. I ordered a second test just to be sure. He pulled another envelope from his briefcase, carefully tore off the seal, and began reading the form. What do we do now? Julie asked quietly. The 3 of them remained silent, each lost in their own thoughts. Emma felt how the hopes she so carefully built were collapsing. Robert seemed like a good person, and finding a father in him would have been a sign from fate that everything would be all right now. But now, when everything fell apart, Emma felt how the bitterness of defeat poisoned her soul with a new wave of sadness. There's only one hope left, the investor said cautiously. Ask your mother. No, we can't disturb her, Julie immediately protested. Mom is ill. The worry would do her no good. We have no other choice. Otherwise, we'll never know the truth. I don't think she's ready to meet anyone. I'm with you. I'll make sure no one does anything foolish. All 3 nodded silently. Then they went downstairs and got into the respectable, expensive car of the city businessman. Hi. Emma greeted her mother as she came up to the apartment. Hi, my dear. You're early today, Margaret smiled. How are you feeling? Better. Rest really helps. It's just a pity you have to work for the both of us. The woman sighed sadly, not happy with the situation. Emma nervously bit her lip, unsure how to approach the sensitive topic. Did something happen? You look frazzled, her mother noticed. Listen, just don't worry. But I need to find out about my father, Margaret immediately frowned. Just don't worry, honestly. Tell me, is this about work? Okay, I give up. Margaret, after all, you're already an adult. You'll find out sooner or later. You're my dearest, my favorite, but I adopted you from the orphanage when you were just a baby. And my biological parents, do you know anything about them? Emma asked cautiously. Her mother frowned. You were just an infant, and an unusual one at that. You were left at the orphanage door. Even the staff didn't see who did it during the night. But there must be some records. Not really. My acquaintances worked at that orphanage. They told me a new girl had arrived. I was already thinking about taking someone in. You didn't live there even a day, so small. The director helped me process everything quickly without unnecessary questions. So no one really investigated where you came from. So, you don't have any information about me? I never needed it. You immediately became mine, and we didn't need anyone else. Emma approached her mother and hugged her. She smiled, covering her daughter's hand with hers. Thank you for always being there for me, whispered the girl. It's all right, my dear, all right. That's how it is, she said, turning away. After talking with her mother, Emma said she had an urgent matter and left, struggling to hold back tears. The news that her mother wasn't biological wasn't easy to bear. She almost broke down crying in the hallway, but the presence of others stopped her completely. Although, can Jake and Robert still be considered strangers now? Strange story. Robert shook his head. Too many blank spots. You must be connected to Melissa somehow, but how exactly? Maybe you need to talk to your wife. Probably that's the only thread left, Jake said thoughtfully. The investigation absorbed him so much he completely forgot about the recent breakup. Moreover, constant communication with Emma made him see her differently and feel some sympathy. You're right, Robert said. I'm flying home immediately. It'll be faster than by car. I can't wait to sort everything out. They headed to the airport to catch a flight to the capital. Keep an eye on my car and my daughter while I'm gone, Jake told Robert, his senior colleague. When I return, I'll take her, the girl or the car, Alice joked jealously. We'll see, Robert said mysteriously, heading to the terminal. A vague sense of anxiety tightened Emma's chest. Everything she held dear turned out to be false, and everything that might happen in the future was hidden in a thick fog of uncertainty. Don't be afraid. Everything will be fine. The main thing is that we're together, Jake said softly, feeling her trembling. He hugged her tightly, as if to protect her from the whole world. Do you have something to say? Robert asked, pressing, finishing his story. His wife Sarah sat down in a chair, not daring to look at him. The confession was too sudden, and he looked too troubled. You see, it happened like this, Sarah said. How? I got pregnant by my ex-fiancé, she whispered, ashamed of her actions. But you were on a business trip, went abroad, earned startup capital. And here you were having affairs while I was working. Don't be angry, please. I was just lonely. It all started as a game for fun. Light flirting, conversations, evening dates, and then everything spun out of control. We only did it once, Robert said bitterly. I did everything for you. You betrayed me. It was a mistake, Sarah confessed. I was young. Feelings overwhelmed me. I couldn't resist. We broke up immediately and never saw each other again, I swear. Why? Because you got pregnant. Sarah shyly lowered her eyes, feeling the hostile look directed at her. Forgive me if you can, she whispered. Robert took a few steps toward her, then turned away, frozen in place, staring through the dark window. A whirlwind of thoughts, emotions, and words raced in his mind, a chain of curses, each worse than the last. A man ready to tear a woman to pieces. Suddenly, he cried like a child. Sarah understood what was going on. The memories of their deceased daughter, whom they both loved more than anything in the world, were still too fresh. There were two, she said. When I found out about the pregnancy, I immediately understood that you wouldn't be able to raise twins. The business was just starting. I was so ashamed. My conscience tormented me because you'd be raising two children who weren't yours. I wanted Turkey, so no one would ever find out. Sarah tried to touch her husband, putting her hands on his shoulders, but he shrugged her off as if even the touch of a betrayer was unpleasant. The sobbing began to subside. Robert had already pulled himself together, wiping away hot tears. For two, he said, so it was shameful to keep one. I don't understand the logic, no matter what. You knew I was pregnant, she said. There was no other way, he replied. Only to pretend it was a miscarriage, but that would have been even worse then. I thought you understood, Sarah said bitterly. Don't try to make me feel guilty after everything that happened. Robert cried again, realizing he had no voice left. Tell me what happened next, he said bitterly. I gave birth in a private clinic, but as planned, I kept only one child. The other I gave to the orphanage and went to another city so no one would ever find out. Robert helplessly sat down at the table, clenching his fists. I'm just shocked. The person I loved for so many years ended up deceiving me so cruelly, he sighed. His eyes had long dried up. No place for tears remained in his soul. Only a quiet but merciless anger raged inside, destroying everything in its path. Listen, I'm guilty. I confess. This sin before you will never be forgiven. And that's clear, Robert interrupted. But think about it. We both loved Melissa. What a bright child she was. And it's all thanks to your upbringing. The girl loved you more than life itself. So maybe not by blood, but you were definitely family. That doesn't excuse you. Of course not, Sarah said. I just want your memory not to be stained with bad thoughts. It's only my fault. Robert leaned back in his chair, silently staring at the ceiling. Because of you, I could have lost her forever. It's a real gift of fate that I met Emma and can get to know her properly. Second chances don't come often, and that's the only reason I'll let you go with dignity. Are you kicking me out? Sarah cried. I don't know. Right now I can't even stand to see you after all this. I need time to get used to this thought. Darling, we're not as young as before. Think about it. Maybe there's a way to fix everything. Sarah lowered her hands, broken, completely lost about what to do. The truth had turned her life upside down. There was nowhere to go. Her husband said nothing more. Not looking at his wife. I need to leave. Jake shook his head, receiving another set of documents from Robert. It's amazing how smoothly you handle negotiations, he said. It's all about experience. Once you work in this field for years, you'll crack deals like cracking nuts. Robert winked. Hopefully. How are things with you? Jake tried to ask casually but couldn't fully hide his curiosity. Everything's good, Robert smiled. You know, she might not be mine by blood, but I treat her like my daughter. It's impossible not to love her. By the way, do you really want to marry her? Well, it's a bit complicated. Jake hesitated, cornered by the sudden question since he imagined Emma as his fiancée. Nothing complicated, Robert said disapprovingly. I'm just not sure she's ready for a relationship with me. I'd be happy to, but I don't know how Emma would react. Ah, young people always complicate things. The investor shook his head. Just talk to her honestly and openly, then you won't have to guess or doubt. What if I'm wrong? Would she still want to be friends, knowing her friend hopes for more? You'll never know the truth until you take the risk. And don't you see how she looks at you? Robert smirked. What do you mean? Jake's heart started beating faster. He tapped his fingers excitedly, caught up in joyful anticipation. Could Emma really have feelings for him too? Suddenly, a knock on the door made the young businessman jump. A few seconds later, the lock clicked and Emma entered. Remember, sunshine, here's your little ray of light, Robert smiled. Were you talking about me? She raised an eyebrow. Our boss had some trouble, Jake quickly interrupted Robert. Emma gave both men a suspicious look, but decided not to pay attention to their odd behavior for now. Here's a list of people dragging the company down, she said, placing a sheet on the table. Where did this come from? Robert asked, scanning the column of names. Mind if I explain? The young businessman asked, unsure how to proceed. He just nodded, looking bashfully at the floor. After his recent talk with Robert, he seemed afraid to meet her gaze and not find the same look in return. Sorry, Robert, we lied at that dinner party. I was only pretending to be Jake's fiancée to save his reputation. Actually, I'm the cleaning lady working all over the offices. You did your little investigation while no one paid attention to the staff. A valuable asset, a cleaning lady. That's a failure on your part, Jake, a failure. We gave your company enough funds. Now learn to put the right people in the right places. Before, we just didn't have management positions. The guy smiled. Now we do. The investor waved the paper. Look how many spots will open soon. Don't worry. Emma is from a good university, I checked. And in school, she wasn't counting crows like some others. And we also need an audit, so there's something to complain about, she said, surprised by their looks. Don't want a real fiancé? Robert suddenly asked. She immediately blushed, her cheeks flushing, and even the tips of her ears reddening. Her feelings for her young boss had long grown into something more, but due to shyness, Emma had never hinted at it. It's clear with you, Robert smirked. So, lovebirds, my advice and blessings as your godfather, or you'll be dancing around each other till you're old. Like you said, the invited auditor, we found out our debts aren't baseless, Jake said. No one doubted my competence. Funny, Emma replied, lifting her nose. They laughed, then Jake hugged his beloved and kissed her firmly on the lips. I've already arranged an interview for a new employee. We'll reassign almost all positions. The processes shouldn't suffer. Good thing Robert provided enough funds to offer competitive salaries, she nodded. I'm not working as your assistant for free, Emma joked. Can you believe it? When I bought this company, I thought it'd take years to deal with the debts, but here we are. Only 6 months and we're standing strong. You're great. Paid off everyone. The success you achieved is definitely better than during Vanessa's reign. Oh, don't say that name, or you'll summon the devil. Emma laughed carefree again, snuggling to her fiancé. Her laughter awakened tenderness in Jake's heart, sending a wave of pleasure through his body. They kissed again, this time more passionately. Looks like your workday is in full swing, Robert's voice sounded as he entered the office. Polite people knock first, he grumbled, annoyed at being interrupted. Work first, don't think about nonsense. Evenings and weekends are for romantic dates, Robert lectured. I'm going home tonight, need to visit Mom. Emma added her 2 cents. How's she doing? Maybe you'll finally let us pay for her surgery? Robert immediately perked up. No need. I've already saved up myself. She's doing well, recovering nicely. At least send her to a resort, right? Done, investor, Jake smiled. Already took care of it. Recently bought her a voucher to a rehab sanatorium. She'll go through rehabilitation. She'll be like new. Well then, nothing left to help with, Robert frowned. Feels like I'm just passing by your lives. Don't worry, more trouble will come soon. Emma smiled mysteriously. Guessing, Robert shrugged. Emma wants to ask you to help organize our wedding. Hugging his beloved, Jake said. I recently proposed. Now just have to sort out all the formalities. Oh, formalities? Robert smiled. That's youthful stuff. The happiest day in your lives is every day with us, even without passport stamps. Emma snorted. The main thing is to love each other. Ceremonies are just a show for guests. True enough, Robert nodded. But you still need to celebrate. So, we ask for help. To pass down, so to speak, generational experience. Jake joined the fun. What's this about? Of course. Such a celebration will shake the whole city. Emma smiled proudly, then hugged the 2 men who had become truly close, like family to her. It was with them she wanted to share her new bright life, with no dark days ahead. If you enjoyed the story, please support me by clicking the thumbs up button. 1 click means a lot to me. All the best.